All right, so I saw Professor Wole Soyinka talking about the president's son's entourage. I mean, his bodyguards. By the way, the good professor, I can't believe that man's more than 90 years old. I always call him the silver fox. You know why? Because of his silver hair. Love that fro. Anyway, Professor Soyinka was talking about how appalled he was when he saw the number of bodyguards that Seyi Tinubu goes around with. He even went as far as saying that, you know what? Let's take a look at what he said.
Tinubu didn't have to send the Air Force and the military uh, to deal with this particular insurrection, this threat to our own sense of security and equilibrium. No, there are easier ways of doing it. Let me tell you where Tinubu should have looked for forces to quell that insurrection. And I saw this SWAT team, a mixture. They were at least heavily armed, at least some 15 or so heavily armed to the teeth security personnel. Huh. Looked sufficient to take over a small country, neighboring city like Benin. And I think the next time the president should just call and say, Sheyi, go and quell the rebellion over there. I was so astonished that I started looking for the national security advisor.
She has always had bodyguards even before his pops became president. Now, this is how I know. In, I think, yeah, somewhere in 2023, before his dad became president, that same year, I was at a petrol station somewhere in Wuse 2 in Abuja with a friend of mine. We're buying petrol, just like everyone else, minding our business. And I saw someone come in a Corvette Stingray. That's one of these. Corvette Stingray, and there's a young lady in the passenger's side, and he parks, you know, just like everyone else. He's by the pump, and they're pumping his petrol. And I see, now this is what got my attention. I saw four men. Now there was a Toyota pickup truck, a Hilux, with him, following him. Four men jumped out of the Hilux and stood around his car with their weapons, looking like, like DSS type characters, wearing suits and carrying large guns. The four of them stood, two in the front and two in the back of the car, stood like this with their weapons. Like I said, that got my attention. It got everyone's attention. So I was like, who's that? And then the petrol station attendant who was attending to me said, that's Tinubu's son. I was like, oh, really? Yeah. So he finished buying his petrol. He didn't even come out of the car. He sat in the car while they were pumping his gas, and then he drove off. And the Hilux had a hard time keeping up with that Corvette. He drove off like a bat out of hell. So, yes, he has had an entourage of armed bodyguards since before his dad became president. So that's not a new thing. You know what? In Nigeria, it's really not half that bad. So let's take a look at some of the notorious sons of presidents. Theodorin Obiang is the eldest son of the president of Equatorial Guinea. He's been agricultural minister and is the current vice president just because he's the president's son. He lives lavishly, has houses in Europe and the US. He once stayed in a $75,000 a night hotel, went to a meeting the next day to ask for a loan for his country. You can see him chilling on his Instagram page. Hannibal Gaddafi is one of the sons of Muammar Gaddafi. He's famous for violent incidents abroad as well as Libya. He was arrested in Switzerland for beating his servants, assaulted his model girlfriend in London, had several assault cases in Paris, including a policeman. He's currently in custody in Lebanon in connection with the disappearance of an imam. Saudi Gaddafi, a party animal, tried to play professional football. He actually played for some Libyan clubs and even some Serie A clubs in Italy, not because he had talent, but due to pressure. He was known for insane parties, drugs, women, and violence. He commanded elite military units during the Libyan Revolution and fled to Algeria when the regime fell, but was later extradited back to Libya. He served some prison time and was released in 2021. On to the next one. Khamis Gaddafi was a military commander and head of the most feared military unit in Libya. He was known for discipline and brutality. He played a major role in trying to quell the 2011 uprisings, which means he killed a lot of people. He's believed to have been killed by a NATO airstrike. Saif al-Islam Gaddafi, the successor to Gaddafi's throne, that is, until their plans were disrupted, portrayed himself as a liberal until the Arab Spring exposed him. He gave a fiery speech threatening demonstrators during that period. He was indicted for crimes against humanity by the ICC, captured by rebels in 2011, and held for years. He was later released and ran for president in 2021. If there was a trophy for wickedness, the sons of Saddam Hussein would definitely win it. Meet Uday and Qusay, cruel, callous, and pure evil. They both murdered and tortured people, but Uday lived a much more flamboyant lifestyle, so we'll focus on him more. Uday was a sadistic, maniacal, and sexual predator who kidnapped women on the streets of Baghdad. He liked underage schoolgirls and newlywed brides. He would rape them and sometimes even murder them as well. He was the head of the Iraqi Olympic Committee and would torture athletes who didn't perform well. Both brothers were killed by American troops in 2003. So when you look at it, Seyi Tinubu is really not that bad. He's never been known to kidnap, torture, or kill people. He's just living it up. Compared to these guys, he's an angel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you on the next one. Then there was Hannibal, Sadi, and Khamis Gaddafi. He's currently in jail in Lebanon, something to do with the disappearance of an imam. Sadi was a footballer who tried to play professional football not because he had any talent, but by force. He played for a couple of Libyan clubs and even for an Italian Serie A team due to pressure, not talent, like I said. Of course, he failed drug tests multiple times, being that he was a party animal. He was known for insane parties, drugs, women, and violence. He also commanded elite military units during the revolution. He fled to Niger after the collapse of the regime and was later extradited to Libya. He served time in prison and was released in 2021. Khamis Gaddafi was the head of the 32nd Reinforced Brigade, the most feared unit in Libya. He was known for strict discipline and brutality. He played a major role in trying to crush the uprising in 2011. He was believed to have been killed by a NATO airstrike. Robert Mugabe Jr. and Chatunga Mugabe are the sons of former Zimbabwean President Robert Mugabe and his wife Grace Mugabe, known as Gucci Grace. During their father's reign as president, the Mugabe boys were known for the rock and roll lifestyle with wild and lavish parties, and they were known for showing off their wealth. They were famous for getting into fights in nightclubs, and Robert plays basketball for the Zimbabwean men's national team. Well, these days, since their father is no longer in power, they're kind of low key compared to the way they used to be. They both run several businesses, one of which is a record label. Now, if we were giving away this trophy for wickedness, the sons of Saddam Hussein would win that trophy with no problem whatsoever. Meet Uday and Kusei, the tag team from hell. Kusei, the younger one, was just as brutal, but had a more laid back lifestyle. So let's focus on Uday, the older brother. Uday was a beast, and I don't mean that in a nice way. He was a sadistic, maniacal, evil person. He was also very petty. He loved supercars. But if he ever saw anyone in Baghdad with a car that's nicer than his, you know what he would do? He would take that car away. That's what he would do. He also had a taste for underage girls. So he would drive around Baghdad, mostly in school districts, and pick up underage girls. Now, if any of them refused, they would be abducted. And after he finishes having his way with them, if he's in a good mood, they live to see another day. But if not, their bodies would be found dumped somewhere in the city. Uday had torture chambers in some of his houses, and if anyone offended him, he would lock you up and throw away the key. As a matter of fact, when he was 15 years old, he would tell his classmates that he was going to be worse than his father when he becomes president. No teacher could scold him in school. He used to order his classmates around. Let's say, for example, he says, "Come over to my house after school." That's an order, and you have to obey it. He went as far as putting his classmates on the table and whipping them. That's how bad he was. He tortured countless people, killed people in public with witnesses. On one occasion, he killed one of his father's assistants just because he felt the assistant was responsible for his father marrying another wife because he was the one who introduced the woman to Saddam. So he killed the man at a family get together in front of many witnesses. But who could touch him? He was Saddam's son. He raped lots of women and killed some of them. Now, he also had a taste for newlywed brides. On one occasion, they were somewhere, I think at a hotel or somewhere, and there was this newlywed couple that had just was on their honeymoon. Of course, you know what he did. He got his bodyguards to get the man out of the way. The man was arrested, locked up, and tortured while he had his way with the man's new bride. The poor woman couldn't bear it, and she took her own life. Uday was also the chairman of the Football Association. And of course, he had torture chambers in the stadium, and he would torture players who didn't play well whenever they had a game. Wow. Uday and his brother Kusei were killed by American forces in 2003 after the building they were in was surrounded by the forces. So compared to these guys, Seyi Tinubu really isn't bad at all. He's never been known to torture anyone or anything like that, now has he? All right, this is where we call it a wrap. If you liked it, subscribe to the show, and I'll see you next video. Thanks for watching.